Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your Rangers review. Another emergency briefing. They're becoming quite familiar here on the channel, but a very good afternoon to you all, and a very good afternoon to Chris Jack as well, who joins us. Of course, you're tuning in because Rangers have got the band back together. They've went down the staunch route and have confirmed the interim appointment of Barry Ferguson as head coach of the team until the end of the season. Now, I'll read you the Rangers statement in full, folks. Rangers Football Club can today announce Hall of Fame member and former club captain Barry Ferguson is to become head coach of our men's first team until the end of the season. Ferguson, who won 5 league titles, 5 Scottish Cups and 5 League Cups across 2 spells at Ibrox, will be joined by coaches Issam Sharai, Neil McCann, Billy Dodds and Alan McGregor. Continues, I've just noticed my mic's not on, but I'll continue anyway. Hopefully you can hear me okay, folks. As confirmed yesterday, Philip Clement is leaving the club. In addition, Alex Ray, Colin Stewart and Stefan van der Heyden are also departing. Rangers FC would like to thank Philippe, Alex, Colin and Stefan for their contribution and commitment. They'll always be welcome at the club. Brian Gilmore will remain with Rangers to continue to bridge the gap between the academy and the first team. The ongoing football review will continue and a new permanent manager will be appointed in the coming months. Now, Rangers Chief Executive has passed comment as well, and this is what he had. As I just turned my microphone on, that should sound a bit better now, folks. Philippe and his team have worked tirelessly during their time in at the club and have played an important role in developing the first team's young players. I want to reiterate the issues we are facing run deeper than the manager. The ongoing football review seeks to address those issues and will continue to implement its findings in the coming weeks and months ahead of appointing a new permanent manager. When I spoke to Rangers TV last week, I was clear that everyone is judged on results and nobody will get unlimited time in any role at the club. Ultimately, the team's response following their early exit from the Scottish Cup was a cause for deep concern, leading the board to conclude that action had to be taken now. I want to wish Philippe every success in the future. He is a fine man whom I enjoyed working with my short time here so far. I also want to welcome Barry back to the club. We appreciate him and his team stepping into the role at this difficult time. Myself, the board and the executive team will give them our full support for the rest of the campaign. So there you have it, folks. Barry Ferguson returning to Rangers as head coach and assisted by Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, Issam Sharai and Alan McGregor, who returns to Rangers as well. Chris, your thoughts?
If you'd asked me this time last week if this would be the management team that Rangers are going to take into what's left of this season, I would have said no. But I think in the circumstances, I know there's been a lot of debate about it already. See a lot of the comments coming in. Some people all for it. Some people not having it at all. But I think it's the best that Rangers could have done. No, there was no real kind of obvious choice apart from going down the former player route, apart from going down the avenue of guys that know the club, that know the league, that know what it's all about. And I think that's what Rangers have. I think that's what they've done here. Also had to act quickly after Saturday, because that was just that bad. It was obvious then that Clement could not continue. Myself and Johnny were obviously on last night talking about that decision and a wee bit about what could unfold. I made the point to Johnny last night. Rangers had to go down this road of an interim appointment. There is no chance that they could have said, we're going to take a couple of weeks and we'll go and try and find a new manager. Too much on the table in terms of the takeover, in terms of sporting director still coming in as well. So they had to go down this avenue. It had to be an interim just to get us to the end of the season. And I think this setup is probably the best that they could have done given the circumstances.
Are you surprised? I mean, let's take Ferguson to begin with. It came of a bit of a surprise, I've got to admit. Now, he's had managerial experience in the past, albeit at clubs nowhere near the stature of Rangers. So he had an interim spell in charge of his former club, Blackpool. He's been at Kelty Hearts, where he did pretty well there, and Alloa also for a period of time. But he's not had a role as big as this. Of course, he was at Clyde as well for a few seasons. But as Chris just puts more money in his Wi-Fi meter, that's what we get back shortly, folks. But it seems to have split opinion amongst the fan base. There we go. We've got Chris back in amongst us. So good stuff. Barry coming back to the club, Chris. I've just seen that it splits opinion amongst the fan base. It's fair to say. Listen, we all idolised him as a player. He really epitomised what a Ranger should be. He wore that armband with pride and really was the quintessential Rangers captain. If he can instill some of that fighting spirit and just pass on what it means to play for the club, if the players can respond to that, then I think it could be a safe pair of hands until the end of the season. But were you surprised at that appointment that Rangers went down that route?
I think I see a lot of people saying it's terrible and I can't believe the club have done this and what are the board thinking of. I would love to see people saying, well, who are the alternatives? Now, yes, Barry's managerial track record is not exactly sterling. It does not, 99 times out of 100, it does not qualify him to be manager of Rangers. This is the one time out of the 100, though. This is a unique set of circumstances where Rangers once again need to find a manager. They once again have written off a season. They once again are going to require a rebuild. And as I touched on there, it cannot be, and it could not be, that they bring in the permanent new manager to go through the same cycle that they've been through in previous campaigns. Need to get to the end of the season. These remaining league games, we know there's nothing at stake. We know there's nothing to play for, but Rangers still need to get through them. They still need to give the fans something back. Safe to say the Rangers fans are owed quite a lot, and there's not enough left to play for that could make up enough ground to the Rangers fans. But they have to find a way to try and build a wee bit of positivity to try and get players back on board, to try and get the fans back on board. So I don't really see what else the club could have done. If you're going to go down the legend route, Barry's track record as a legend more than speaks for itself, and he's brought in some experienced coaches in there. I think a lot of people respect Neil McCann. He's been a very, very good pundit. I think people should be pleased to see him back in. I didn't expect Billy Dodds. That's a name that's come from left field. But again, I don't have any issues with Billy being in there at all. And also Alan McGregor is perhaps the kind of headline signing already. Really interested to see how he adapts to the coaching side of it. Is this the start of a coaching journey? We reported on the site earlier on today that Colin Stewart had left the club. Again, I think that came as a wee bit of a surprise, but it shows that the club going in a different direction, even just in that department. So is this a chance for Alan McGregor to prove that he could be the next Rangers goalkeeping coach? Does he see this as his first step, or is he just coming in just to help Rangers get to the end of the season? So I think it's a really, 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 really interesting set of appointments, and people that are really, really dead against it. I think they have to look at the bigger picture, look at where Rangers are, and look at the time that this buys the club and the new investors and a new board. It buys them a bit of time to get it right in the summer, rather than just rushing in and doing something different right now.
Yep. Lots of comments coming in, as you can imagine, but let's get to a few of them. Day in Life is a tad late to the party, but he says, what's Barry's backroom staff, lads? So as we touched on there, Neil McCann coming in alongside Billy Dodds, Alan McGregor returning to the club. Sam Shirai remains in place. Now, Philip Clement has departed alongside Stefan van der Heyden and Alex Ray and Colin Stewart as well. So, McGregor's an interesting one. For me, this smacks of Barry going in there and saying he wants his he's probably recommended his former teammates to come in and help him out. Don't think Patrick Stewart would have had Billy Dodds or Alan McGregor on his speed dial on his phone, so I'm not entirely sure that would have been a Patrick Stewart led appointments, but these are guys that Barry will trust, and I cannot wait to see them on the touchline, I've got to admit, especially with Josie on the horizon. Big Shug says the Rangers stars will love this appointment. Absolutely. The one thing's for sure, Chris, these guys on the touchline will not accept performances like we witnessed at the weekend. That's for sure. And I've got to say, I'm sort of looking forward to the remaining games now, just to see what they can do. I'd imagine we'll see an upturn in performance levels. I think we'll get the new manager bounce, and if the players don't produce the goods, then the guys on the touchline will be quick in telling them that it's not good enough.
I think you look at what's ahead of Rangers over these next 3 months that's left of the season. Fenerbahce is obviously a huge tie. Even with Clement there's no guarantee Rangers were going to win that. That was obviously the plan from the club. Patrick Stewart referenced that in his RTV interview less than a week ago about they wanted to give Clement that tie. It became obvious that could not happen. It shouldn't have been in the situation where he was even allowed the chance to get that tie. In the grand scheme of things, are Rangers going to win the Europa League? Probably not. I think we can all but write that one off. So domestically, they've got these games. There's nothing to win. They have to find a way to get through them. They have to try and find a way to actually get the fans back on side. These players are playing for their future as well. If you don't impress in these next couple of weeks, the fans will write you off if you haven't been written off already. So there's a lot for this squad to still not achieve in terms of medals and silverware. Still a lot for them to prove. Still a lot of these guys, if they want to be here next season, regardless of who the manager is going to be, they have to go and earn it. They have to go and earn that place in the squad, especially if there's going to be fresh investment after the takeover. Rangers perhaps shopping in a different market, depending what the budget is. So there's a lot at stake for these players. There will be a number of them that move on anyway. We're heading into another season or another summer of a rebuild and a refresh and all the words that we've used in previous ones. So it's a chance for a number of these players to go and prove themselves. It's a chance for Barry to come back in to try and give something back to the club, to try and raise the standards a bit, try and raise morale, try and raise confidence, try and give something back to the fans. It's not Barry coming in with an opportunity to make himself next Rangers manager. There is nothing that he can do in these next 3 months to suggest that he will be the next Rangers manager. He would have to win the Europa League for it to even be a remote chance of being in the conversation. It's not going to happen. These guys, they'll come in, they'll do the best for the club, they'll move on at the end of the season, and Rangers will then get into a new era. So I don't really get I know it's easy to have a kick at the club. I know people are angry with everything that's on the table right now, Rangers wise, but I don't really buy into the shambles, disgrace theories of why people are so upset at this one.
Yep. Seemingly there's a few infiltrators in the comments, folks. Do let us know who they are, and I'll do my very best to remove them from the chat. Neil with a point, and I guess this is a real opportunity for all of them that have been appointed until the end of the season. Neil says, Derek, what would happen if we win every game? Surely would need to be considered. All they can do, that they've got the job just now, Chris. All the coaches that are in there, Barry included. It is until the end of the season. We know what's happening behind the scenes. New owners on the horizon. I'd imagine they'll be looking to appoint their own man when they come in and direct Rangers forward as they see fit. But if you have the job just now, then it's a great opportunity to showcase what you can do, I'd imagine.
I would imagine the only one that's got a crack at a permanent position out of this would be Alan McGregor. Rangers will need a new goalkeeping coach, obviously, after this season has ended. I don't really see Billy Dodds or Neil McCann being part of a Rangers coaching staff. Now, we've had this conversation in previous seasons after previous appointments about the local coach and the homegrown guy and the guy that knows the club and that knows the standards and all the rest of it. I think as recent times have shown, that's no guarantee of success. It's no guarantee of anything. Depending who the new manager is, they may want to have that voice and that personality that they can tap into. Does that potentially give Barry a route to remaining as part of the structure. Potentially, he's not going to be the next Rangers manager. Barry Ferguson will not be the Rangers manager heading into next season. So I think Alan McGregor could be. I think he could have a shot at getting that goalkeeping role, but it depends. Once the new owners have taken control, once the new sporting director has come in, once the new manager has come in, then all these things can fall into place. But you're very, very far down the list of priorities. There's a lot of things, a lot of pieces to fall into place before that. So time will tell. But I don't see. I think the way this has been set up, it's clearly until the end of the season, and people, whether they like it, love it, they just have to get to the end of the season and try and find a way to get through what is remaining of the Premiership.
Yeah, I'm going to clip that up, Chris, just in case Rangers go on and win the Europa League. Barry gets the job for me. So there you go, Barry. Easy peasy, go and win that competition. John says, did Derek just imply Ferguson as Rangers manager? Sober up, Derek. Yeah, so I haven't been drinking today. But listen, he just goes out there and do the best as he possibly can and see where it takes Rangers. Surprised Sam Sharai still part of the coaching setup, Chris. I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, Rangers going down the staunch route, bringing in the ex-players, Sam Sharai, of course, there as well. Is that an interesting one for you?
He's not very long into a 3.5-year contract, is he? Yeah. So that might have something to do with it. We never really got to the bottom of when he came in of, was it a Clement appointment? Was it a club appointment? Was this something that people higher up the club thought this guy will be a really good addition to the club in general, not just to the current coaching staff? We've never heard him speak. We don't really know much about all of him. There's been little said about what kind of impact that he has had. You have to say, since he came in, now this is not all his fault, obviously, but Rangers haven't exactly been good to watch, and results haven't exactly been good. Of course, he wasn't the manager, so you can't point the finger of blame at him for that. But again, this gives him a chance to try and prove himself. Will he be part of the squad next season, a part of that coaching squad next season? I would doubt it, but you never know. I don't think he will be a long term and for a long term stay, but time will tell. I don't think it's a massive surprise that he has stayed, and I think even though there's a number of people that are not exactly on board with this with the appointment strategy, nobody can argue the fact that Rangers need a clean slate, and I don't think anybody is going to argue the fact that the people that have left, slightly a surprise that Colin Stewart, I have to say. But the other ones, it was obvious that Rangers had to move on, had to go in a different direction.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what Sam Sharai brings to the table. I said it a few weeks ago, folks. I was trying to track someone down, a Moroccan lad who had him on their podcast. He's going to come on the show on Thursday, so we'll get two Moroccan boys on that spoke to him on the podcast a few months ago. So we'll get a clearer idea as to the sort of coach he is and what he will bring to the table. Lots of comments coming in. There's a few interesting ones. Curry says Netflix special must be on the cards, surely, Derek. That would be an all-timer ratings winner if Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever decided to get their cameras inside the Rangers dressing room in Auchinnahowie. I would love to watch that, but it's not going to happen. Just on the issue, the Steve-O says Barry went from sitting on the couch to planning to take on Jose Mourinho. Madness, but I'm here for it. Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait to see that touchline, incidentally. Rangers heading over to Istanbul. Not too sure when Rangers last played Fenerbahce, of course, down there, 2001. They lost by 2-1. Barry would have been in that team, I think. Let us know if I'm right or wrong, folks. He would have been in that Rangers midfield, I reckon. I think it would be Stefan Klos in goal at the time. Not sure if Billy Dodds played that night or Neil McCann, but you can let us know. You can do a bit of searching, do a bit of Googling and let us know. But a bit of revenge, perhaps, on the cards in that game. That will be, as well as what's going to take place on the pitch in these two games, Chris, there's going to be a close eye on both dugouts as well, I'd imagine.
It's set up. It was already going to be set up for a really intriguing tie, but it's taken on a whole different complexion. Just a quick Google there on the UEFA site, and Barry did not play that night. He was not even on the bench. It must have been an issue there. The Rangers side that night was Kloss, Rickson, Amoruso, Newman, who was captain, Flo, Reyna, De Boer, Kontaman, Kanchelskis, Wilson, and Vidmar. That was the side that lost 2-1 in Turkey. So that is your trip down memory lane. As for the one that is coming up over the next couple of weeks, I don't think, even with Clement there were no guarantees that Rangers were going to win that tie. I think Fenerbahce was, out of all the possible opponents, I think Fenerbahce was the one that you probably didn't want to draw. But if they can go away from home, somehow keep it alive, keep themselves in the tie, coming back to Ibrox, I think there's enough history at Ibrox over recent seasons to show that anything is possible. So you would have to imagine it's going to be a really, really difficult tie for Rangers. It's hard to fancy them going through given the circumstances. But mentioned earlier on about kind of confidence and motivation and that type of thing. That's perhaps the biggest impact that Barry can have. Can he get players playing with a bit more expression, a bit more freedom, a bit more confidence? Interesting to see how they set it up tactically and what kind of changes they make to the side. Rangers can't afford just to write off everything. Like, yes, there's nothing to play for. Yes, they just have to get through these games. Still have to win them. This is Rangers after all. As Jack Butland said after the game through at Tynecastle, you don't get friendlies. And that Fenerbahce tie, it's a huge opportunity for them. I think they will be up against it. But if you can get through it, the competition opens up, and who knows after that.
Imagine Ferguson gets the better of Mourinho. That would be absolutely incredible. So there it's the carrot is there. Hopefully he can do the business. But I've got my doubts. I said it on the show this morning. Mourinho is a granddaddy at getting through these knockout ties, isn't he? So I would have rather have had Bodo Glimt. But there you go. As long as Rangers, as we touched on there, can put up a fight in Istanbul, not get blown away as Anderlecht were, and bring it back to Ibrox, then who knows what can happen. Just on the issue of potential permanent managers, firstly, Buckshot Lariat says, going forward, should we go to 1 year rolling contracts for managers? Listen, I think that the decision to issue Philippe Clement with an extension on his deal on the eve of the season starting was a bit bewildering, to say the least. Looking back now, he hadn't achieved anything of note, really. League Cup aside. And I would like Rangers not to be dishing out lengthy contracts, Chris, going forward. You see a lot of clubs handing out 1 year contracts. What do you make of that?
I think it really depends how the contracts are structured in terms of the break clauses or the penalty clauses from the club's point of view. I don't think there's no harm in giving a manager a 3 year deal, as long as if it goes bad, then you have the option to terminate it, and it's not too big a cost. Rangers, as we know through our misfortune, paid a lot of money out to managers who are no longer at the club now. We spoke a lot about cannot keep being in this cycle. They find themselves back in the cycle again, but it's going to be a different board, a different regime that is going to hand out that next long-term contract. And again, it depends what financial package you're putting in front of a manager. Ian can mention this with Johnny last night. Do Rangers still spend roughly the same budget on a manager? Do they try and add another £1 million, add another £2 million to it, which takes them into a potentially different bracket of manager? So there's so many questions to answer, but so much up in the air just because there's so many items on the table.
Yeah, and there's another question as well. A lot of you commenting in, Scott D and many others. Does Barry have the European qualifications to take the side in Europe? I think he's got his pro license, if I'm not mistaken. Ditto Issam Charai. I'm sure he's got his relevant qualifications as well, Chris, unless I'm mistaken, but I'm sure they've got them. I might need to double check that one. Have you heard anything different to that?
I've not heard anything different, and you would like to assume, given that Rangers have a European tie coming up, they have gone to someone who's able to take said European tie. So the thought didn't even cross my mind. I just assumed that everything would be fine. Rule number one, dealing with Rangers, never assume. So that's my first mistake of the day.
Andrew Webster with the point says that Neil talking about Neil McCann has given brilliant analysis over the past few months into our issues. Great to see him involved and how he will address it. Yeah, absolutely. His piece on Sports Scene the other night there just highlighted just how inept Rangers were at the weekend, and he talks well, Neil McCann. Chris, I think I was surprised he's not been involved in a coaching capacity before now at Rangers. I know he's been the main man. Most recently he was at Dundee, wasn't he? I think he'd done a decent job there. I think he's an important guy to have around the place because he's someone that knows football inside out, and when he speaks, you listen.
Indeed, I know that kind of clip from Sportsline has kind of gone viral over the last couple of days because it pointed out just a number of issues in this Rangers side. So he's now got a chance to go and fix it. People will say it's easy to sit on a couch. It's easy to sit behind the TV camera and give you a view. It's harder to then go and put that on the grass and going to put that into real life. But that's the opportunity that Neil has now. Not quite as big a Rangers legend as Barry Ferguson, but someone that the fans clearly have a huge affinity with. It's a club that Neil clearly has a huge affinity with. I'm sure he'll be delighted to be back in and to be given that opportunity to go and make an impact and try and do his bit.
Yeah, Billy Dawes as well. I said managerial experience. I'm sure he was at Inverness, wasn't he? Or was it Ross County? He was at for a period of time. So he's got experience there. I think he was at Inverness for a couple of seasons. So he's another one that knows his stuff. I know it's not an appointment that's universally welcomed by everyone, but as we touched on earlier, it will be guys that Barry trusts to have around him in the dressing room and on the training field as well. So, you've got to trust Barry in those decisions at this moment in time. That's who Rangers will have between now and the end of the season. Those are asking about press conferences. It will be tomorrow afternoon. We've not been told yet what time that's going to be, but I would imagine Barry would be put up, Chris, not Issam Shirai. Should be Barry Ferguson, I'd imagine.
You would think so. Again, never assume. But
yes.
if they've now confirmed Barry's appointment and he is the manager until the end of the season, there's no reason why he can't take the press conference Tuesday, take the game Wednesday, and that's him off and running. So no time for that yet. The club haven't sent an invite round yet. But yes, I would be. I'd be surprised if it wasn't Barry. There's no reason why it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I love this. Ali Quinn gets in touch. He says, I used to clean wee Billy's boots, a real Rangers man. So, there you go. Hopefully he tipped you and he gave you a good Christmas bonus, Ali. But, are you expecting much change then, Chris, to this Rangers team? I've touched on earlier, I expect an uplift in performance levels. Do you expect the team to be more direct, to perhaps a change in shape, personnel changes? Should we expect radical alterations Wednesday and going forward?
Going forward, you would think so. Wednesday may be too soon. They've not obviously they're not going to have a whole lot of time on the training ground. Not going to have a whole lot of time in the analysis rooms up at training ground. So there's not going to be that much they can actually do. You look looking at the options within the squad. There's not a whole bunch of guys that are banging the door saying, "Well, I've not been playing of late, and now I deserve my chance." The team at the weekend, also John Souttar, has picked up a knock of late. So from that side at the weekend, who would you really change? So I think Wednesday it'll be much of a muchness. I don't think we'll see anything too big on Wednesday, but they do have that time. They do have this opportunity still. 11 league games left plus a European tie. There's plenty of games there, but I don't think we'll see anything. Don't think we'll see anything too radical on day one. And going to Wednesday, it's all about the result rather than the performance. They just need to try and get off and running. Give the fans something back. Rangers, of course, will take a good crowd down to Rugby Park. Need to give them something, and then you're back at Ibrox at the weekend. and that Ibrox crowd is certainly due a result and certainly due a performance.
Yeah, it sure is. I fancy Rangers on Wednesday. I think we will see a good result and a performance as well. And that's just my opinion, of course. I very much, well, it can't be any worse than what we witnessed at the weekend, that's for sure, which was utterly dreadful. Stuart McBride gets in touch. Great coverage, chaps. Thanks from Denmark True Blues. Good to have you tuning in, Stuart. Chat says, Radio Scotland and sports scene need new pundits. Yeah, absolutely. A couple of vacancies there. For sure, but we wish Barry Ferguson, Neil McCann, Issam Shirai, Billy Dodds and Alan McGregor the very best of luck. I think that they're going to need it. That big news today, folks. Philip Clement departing, that was confirmed last night, and the new Rangers coaching team have been confirmed. So press conference day tomorrow ahead of that game at Rugby Park. We'll bring you all the fallout from that at Auchenhowie. And are you going yourself, Chris, or is Joshua heading over?
I've still to have that particular conversation with him. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go and give him I'd half an hour on the phone just before we came on to catch up. Honestly, he was off last week, so just to catch up on what's been happening, see how his holiday was, talk about the weather and the other various bits and bobs. So I'll go and catch up again, and we'll see what the plans are for the next couple of days.
Right, good stuff. Thanks for tuning in, folks. As ever, it's much appreciated. I doubt we'll be back on today, so enjoy your Monday. I'll be back on tomorrow morning. I think Stevie's on with me, so we'll join you for that, 9:30 usual time. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Bye for now.